Hirings and firings around the NFL have left some mad and some happy. I think people in Los Angeles are happy with Mike McDaniel being the OC for the Chargers.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of The Barbershop, one of two shows twice a day on Locked On NFL, where we use the local experts from around our network that have their finger on the pulse of the team to keep us up to date on all of the happenings. Our network is the Locked On Podcast Network, which is the #1 sports podcast network. And we thank you for making us your first listen, and shout out to the everydayers. It is your team every day, and as in the middle of the week, as it always is, my man David Harrison from Locked On Commanders has joined me today. He was going to take a whip around, and let me tell you where we're going to end up, and before I tell you where we're going to start. Baker Mayfield hates everybody in the NFC South, and I ain't got no problem with it. I'll tell you why I feel that way. Brian Daboll may be back in Buffalo, and some people aren't happy, but if you read between the lines, Josh Allen may have had a lot to do with that. But we're going to start at the very top talking about Josh McDaniel. Landing in Los Angeles, David, I am on record saying he is not my favorite OC. I don't see what everyone sees in him. But I think the thing that I don't usually like about him is that they don't have, my man Matt Williamson says, too many Ferraris, not enough dump trucks. That's the perfect match for a team like the Chargers that have too many dump trucks, and maybe they don't use their Ferraris enough. So now I'm thinking this might be a perfect fit for two teams that, or two people or entities that are extremes, but now they'll come together.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a good blend because, Harbaugh is known as a run-first coach. Guys like us always kind of lament about the fact that everybody wants to put Justin Herbert on this pedestal, even though he hasn't really accomplished anything in his NFL career as of right now. And essentially, to me, man, this is a move to finally maximize Justin Herbert. And, look, if Harbaugh comes in and says we're going to be a run-first team, not a Justin Herbert first team, and then Mike McDaniel comes in and he can't make this thing work with Justin Herbert, then if you're the Chargers ownership, you got to start to ask the question, is it Justin or is it the coaches? And I think most likely it's probably going to be Justin. That's at least what needs to be the answer, although we have other organizations in the NFL that don't see the writing on the wall for what it is. And I think that's where the appeal of Mike McDaniel comes in, right? As far as like a head coach is concerned, we've talked about this, man. Like the head coach position is completely different from any coordinator position in the NFL. It's so little to do with X's and O's and so much to do with Jimmy's and Joe's. And those are two different aspects of the game. And I don't know that Mike McDaniel is just ever going to be this great leader of men that should be a head coach. But as far as a designer of offenses, I think there in the last couple of years in Miami, he really got bogged down trying to protect Tua Tagovailoa, and I think that was just a really bad situation, truthfully, for all of them involved, but nobody wanted to force Tua out the door. Yet, if you're Mike McDaniel, you feel a sense of responsibility to not let this dude just get completely demolished on the football field. So you have to change the way you play. You can't have these long developing routes that he likes to draw up. You can't have a lot of this craziness going on because craziness also opens up the door to big hits on your quarterback. And those are things that you're trying to avoid. I think this is going to be a better situation for Mike because he's going to get back into the lab, get back into creating, which is, I think, what he's really best at.
He is best at that. I'm going to give you a glimpse of what the Chargers job opening is like without the Locked On Chargers guys actually knowing at the time who the coordinator was going to be. And then we'll come back and tell you a team that thought he was going to interview for head coach for their team, and he canceled it because he signed with the Chargers. There you go.
The Chargers are a great place to be able to take that chance to be able to go with a great quarterback, with a bunch of young weapons, with a ton of cap space to be able to fix an offensive line. You go out there and orchestrate that offense and you look fantastic and you go win a playoff game or two, then you're going to be looking fantastic and you're going to be looking like the guy that they want to lead their next franchise. So it is a fantastic place to be able to do that. The Chargers have everything that a prospective offensive coordinator who wants to parlay that into a head coaching job could possibly want.
I've always said that if you really pay attention to people that hire well, they hire well, not just everyone always gives credit to the person that does the hiring, like the tree. What they don't understand is every time they go hire a coach, and Nick Saban kind of hinted at this the other day, they go and hire a coach that has certain skill sets, and every other coach sits in on the interview process. And then this coach actually, they ask the coach to teach something, and then the coaches sitting in the room actually learn a new way of doing things. I think every coach you hire, these legacy coaches, when they hire these guys, they're bringing guys in not to learn under them, but they're learning from them, and they're incorporating that into who they are.
Yeah, man, it's about introducing, you know, a new seasoning or a new protein into your pot of gumbo, right? Like you can make these things a whole lot of different ways, and I think that's what Mike McDaniel is going to do. And as far as, you know, as long as, I should say, the organization is on board with letting this man, you know, put together the offense that he needs to put together, and isn't going to be in there meddling and like, well, we want this and we want that, and this guy will sell jerseys and this guy, like, no, like, let your coaches do their thing, man. And you know, typically things are going to work out a lot better. You're an owner for a reason. Be the owner. Let the coaches coach.
Yep. If you ask people from back in the day, okay, you say, okay, what did Jimmy Johnson's and Norv Turner's Dallas Cowboys teams do? They ran the ball. And then you say, well, what did Mike Martz's team do with the greatest show on turf? They threw the ball. Ask anybody who knows both systems, is the exact same offense. One of them, you leaned on the pass. The other, you leaned on the run. Anyone who played for both of those teams or came through Washington with Trent Green and when Norv Turner was there, will tell you it was the exact same offense. So you can run the same thing, but just lead with different stuff. I don't know what Cleveland's leading with, but they thought they were going to maybe even get a chance to interview Mike McDaniel. In the days of alignment of coaches, GMs, and head coaches, is not what Cleveland represents right now. But here's Mr. German to tell you how they got spurned at the altar.
So Mike McDaniel has withdrawn from the Browns head coaching search as he was busy in Los Angeles, signing a contract to become the next OC of the Los Angeles Chargers. So that eliminates him out of the conversation. Mixed reviews on Mike McDaniel, I think, from the start in terms of how fans kind of felt about him. But the bigger piece of this is what it means for the search timeline and when the Browns can get this thing done. We all know at this point, teams have to fulfill the Rooney Rule, interview in person at least 2 diverse candidates, female candidates for coaching jobs, GM jobs, etc. Well, Mike McDaniel was supposed to be one of those 2 of the 6 that the Browns had gotten to this stage of the process with. It was him and Nate Shieldhouse, who can't obviously interview until next week. So this does throw a wrench into things in that the Browns now have to interview somebody else in person of that background in order to fulfill the Rooney Rule. We don't know who that's going to be. We don't know what that looks like at this juncture, but anybody who thinks like, well, hey, Grant Udinski's going to be here on Friday, don't let him leave the building, get that deal done and make him the head coach. It can't get done this week. It literally cannot get done this week because they haven't even talked to one candidate, let alone 2. And so to fulfill the Rooney Rule. So this thing is going to take some time. It's going to spill into next week, most likely, but the Browns are trying to check those boxes as best they can and at least get the candidates in that they want to talk to about the head coaching job. And one of them is now off the table, Mike McDaniel. We'll see what all that means. We'll talk about it some more with you on another episode of the Locked On Browns podcast on Wednesday.
David, listen, all of these people are taking jobs where they're aligned with folks. It worked last year in Washington. It certainly worked in Chicago and some other places. It seems like that's the recipe. That's what's important. If you're looking at Cleveland and you got a video of the owner saying they weren't going to take Shador, you got a GM looking halfway happy that they took him. You just fired a coach that, he didn't want to do him right or do right by him or whatever. But then Shador's still there and nobody's telling you how they feel from top to bottom. I wouldn't insert myself in that foolishness either.
No, I wouldn't take this job. Listen, they're going to have to go and look. It worked out in Carolina, right? But when the Carolina Panthers hired Dave Canales, it was very blatantly obvious. It's the only job that Dave Canales could have got. And Dave Canales was the only coach that would have taken the job, right? Like, and that was the situation. Now, again, it's working out. They won the division this year, went to the playoffs. Bryce Young looks like a reinvigorated quarterback. That's great. But that's the situation the Browns are in. Like, the Browns have to understand, man, like, you're swinging for the fences at guys like Mike McDaniel and all this other stuff. Like, you got to be realistic about who you are and what you are. And honestly, this entire process, the fact that they haven't even interviewed 2 candidates 2 minority candidates from outside the organization. Yeah, we're damn near at the end of January, and they haven't even done the minimum standard of what they need to do to be able to actually hire a head coach. Like, by the time they get to these candidates, Wig, it's going to be just another look on this organization. If you're just doing it to check the block so you can hire the person that you want, and that's just, it's a bad look for a franchise that already has a lot of bad looks. Like, you know, people can have their opinions on the Rooney Rule and all that stuff of what you want. And Mike McDaniel would have been one of those candidates had he actually made it to the interview. But the fact that, one, Mike has taken so many interviews and had the Browns basically at the back end of his tour list, it basically kind of showed he's like, all right, like, if nothing else pans out, if nothing else is that attractive, then I'll go talk to Cleveland. I mean, the Browns are a mess, man. And this just shows you why they shouldn't have fired Kevin Stefanski in the first place. Like, you're getting rid of a person that everybody wants to dance with, and you have nobody lining up to dance behind you. Like, there's just the lack of self-awareness in Cleveland is astounding.
Basically, my man said Cleveland is like the 3 a.m. phone call when nothing else worked. And it's like, hey, big head. That's what Cleveland is.
But then they push the people out of their bed. Like, that's
right.
Like, you just don't know who you are, man. Like, that's
wild. All right, we're gonna get into more of these hirings and firings. Some have made the natives kind of upset, like the one in Buffalo. I'll tell you why you might as well think about getting mad at your quarterback if that's the case in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored by Drip Drop. Kicking off the year is feeling good, and the goal is to feel good. And honestly, hydration is the easiest win. When I stay on top of it, my energy, focus, and mood all level up. But let's be real, plain water doesn't always cut it, especially when you're grinding through the days, hitting the gym, or just trying to stay consistent with your health goals. That's where Drip Drop comes in. Doctor-developed, proven fast hydration that helps your body and mind work together. Think clearer, focus, better energy, elevated mood, even that fresh skin glow. That's right, man. A Drip Drop science-backed formula is trusted by firefighters, medical professionals, and over 90% of top college and pro teams because it rehydrates you faster and more effectively than water alone. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's dripdrop.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 20% off. Stock up now at dripdrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. And today's show is also sponsored and brought to you by Robin Hood. What if sports traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robin Hood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long and use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robin Hood prediction markets changes the game. What it is people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move right along with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robin Hood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robin Hood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robin Hood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. All right, with my man David Harrison, going through some hiring and firing. I feel like we're a PR firm, not a PR. What is it? HR. We're human resources around here, man. Letting these people know what's going on with a lot of these jobs. There's some people that's not real happy. We'll get to them here. One of them is a lot of people in Buffalo, and they're wondering, why did we fire Sean McDermott? And it almost feels like this was not something that just happened because of one game. This was like, if we don't win it all, he's gone. This was a decision that feels like that was made a little while ago. But now they may be looking back to something old, and apparently Josh Allen will have something to do with that decision. I'm not telling you I know this because I'm not privy to it. But if he has anything to do with the decision of who they hire, to me, he most likely had something to do with why they fired who they fired. His old office coordinators peeping around the job. But let me tell you why you got to be careful what you ask for. Listen to Joe Marino talk about this job opening.
The Bills became just the fourth team in the history of the NFL to win a playoff game in at least 6 consecutive years. The other 3 teams had 3 Super Bowl wins to show for it, and the Bills haven't even gotten there. I certainly understand that you can't just pick up the pieces and try again next year. Something needed to change. There needed to be a shakeup. But consider me very surprised that shakeup is Sean McDermott, especially because Brandon Beane stays.
People now know what I felt like the whole time when the Jaguars kept firing coaches but kept their GM. And then when they made a decision to fire Doug Peterson, they kept their GM, and I went absolutely ballistic. Man, at some point, you got to start over. You can't be having people that's firing other people because of CYA. You know what I mean? So this tells me that Josh Allen probably had something to do with it. And they better be careful, because you might be thinking about what Sean McDermott doesn't do, but when he leaves, a lot of things that he did well went out the door along with it.
Yeah. I mean, look, somebody needs to do a study on how many times an organization did what the quarterback wanted to do and it actually worked out, because too many times in my memory, teams that try to just appease their quarterback, it does not go well. And this move doesn't really look like it makes a whole lot of sense either. I mean, listen, you got Terry Pegula out here. You got the owner of the Buffalo Bills out here. If I said his last name correctly, I don't cover the Bills. Apologize for that. But talking about on Wednesday, Wig, he made the decision to fire Sean McDermott after the Broncos game. When's the last time you heard of a knee-jerk reaction being the best reaction you could possibly have? Now, I agree with you. I think the writing has been on the wall for a little bit, but that's coming out the horse's mouth. That's the owner saying that after the Denver Broncos game, watching Josh Allen crying in the locker room, I made the decision I made. You made the decision to fire your head coach because your quarterback turned the ball over 4 times?
Yeah.
I don't know how that makes any sense.
No.
Then you keep the general manager and you keep the offensive coordinator and Joe Brady, who Joe Brady, remember, Joe Brady is the offensive coordinator that took over, that at one point in time, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs were best of friends. Joe Brady takes over, Stephon Diggs can't get the ball and then demands his way out of Buffalo. That's the reason Stephon Diggs pushed his way out of Buffalo, was Joe Brady. Then the coaching staff, quote unquote, the owner throws the coaching staff under the bus saying they wanted Keon Coleman, not my GM. Okay, so your GM, who actually turns in the card, doesn't have the brass, what's to stand up to his coaching staff and say, no, that's not the right player. Like, let's not excuse the decision being made for who pushed for it. Now, the coaching staff pushed for it is the same coaching staff, Joe Brady, on the offensive side of the ball, who couldn't make Stephon Diggs work. So you go give him Keon Coleman, a totally different type of receiver, can't make Keon Coleman work. But Joe Brady's interviewing for the head coach position of the Buffalo Bills. I don't understand how that makes any sense. Now you're talking about maybe bringing in Brian Daboll, which would be the only thing that could really save this whole thing from being a complete Titanic up there in the Niagara Falls area. But you could have brought in Brian Daboll and with Sean McDermott. Brian Daboll and Sean McDermott worked together before. That's what got Brian Daboll a head coaching position in the first place. So you keep your defensive coach, you keep him, you get him and Brian Beane on the same page. Because I think, honestly, Wig, that's a bigger part of the problem that nobody's talking about. That's exactly that Brian Beane and Sean McDermott were no longer on the same page. And that's a totally different conversation. But if you want to bring in Brian Daboll and you want to keep things going the way that they're going, then you keep the process in place. That process is put together by Sean McDermott. Brian Daboll, I think, would be a great hire for the Buffalo Bills, and it looks to me like that's the direction it's going to go. But the way that the Bills ownership has handled this whole thing is absolutely atrocious.
So we got to leave Buffalo. I want to stay there so bad, but I got to give you a chance to pull some meat off the bone, because we got a Detroit Lion listener. He's been getting me, he's been getting on me all year and getting on you all year when we talked about the fact that those coaching changes, even though it was subtle, those little small changes, it's almost like geometry. It's this small here, but as you get further away from the start of the season, that divide is really, really wide. And now Drew Petzing just got hired as the OC after 1 year of Coach Morton. I'm going to give you the floor. We tried to tell him. We told him, but hey, look, the dude's been a good sport all year, but I just wanted to make sure we address
good. That's good, but just take information for what it comes to. We had questions about Morton coming into this thing, right? We talked about what Coach Morton might bring, what he might not bring from the jump. So it wasn't really surprised to see that go sideways. As far as Petzing is concerned, you got to get past 2025. I understand 2025, Arizona Cardinals offense, Drew Petzing, offensive coordinator, Arizona Cardinals at the time, looked terrible. And I agree with you. But here's the thing. Once you get into the forest and stop looking at just the singular tree, which is the stat column, that is on Bidwill. That is on the Arizona Cardinals ownership. There have been multiple reports coming out of Arizona that the ownership group wanted the offense to see if Kyler Murray could be a true franchise quarterback, which means lean on the pass. Drew Petzing is not a lean on the pass type of quarterback. He is not a put it all on the quarterback type of coordinator. That's not his bag. It's never been his bag. You go back to his coaching history and the lineage that he came up in. That's not how he does things. It's not how he grew up. His first 2 years with the Arizona Cardinals team was one of the top rushing offenses in the National Football League, Wig. That is what Drew Petzing wants to be. He wants to establish the run and pass off of it. What does that sound a lot like? It sounds a lot like Ben Johnson, who likes to get David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs going as an extension of the run game and as a running back himself to set Jared Goff up with seam shots to the tight ends, power slot guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown. That is the Lions offense of old. That is what Drew Petzing wants to run. And you look at the way that they built that roster. We talk about guys being off the same page. Monty Ossenfort, the general manager of the Arizona Cardinals, he went out there and drafted an athletic zone blocking offensive tackle, first year on the job. Paris Johnson went out there and drafted a road grading interior offensive lineman in Isaiah Adams 2 years ago. Goes out there and he drafts a blocking only tight end, Tip Ryman. Not a blocking better. No. Tip Ryman doesn't do nothing but just move big dudes from one spot to another. They drafted him in the 3rd round. They go out and draft Trey Benson, who is a power running back. What is Monty Ossenfort drafting for? A run game that then opens up the quarterback. What was Drew Petzing running in 2023, 2024? A offense that sets up the quarterback. What did they run in 2025? A pass-heavy, pass-only offense. Yeah. Trying to figure out if Kyler Murray can be a franchise quarterback. Bidwell, before the season started, went on Arizona radio and said, our offense needs to run through Kyler Murray. We need to figure out who he is going to be. The offensive coordinator did what the ownership was telling him to do, not what the GM was constructing, not what the offensive coordinator was constructing. Those two dudes were on the same page. This is on Bidwell. You don't have that problem in Detroit. You've got a head coach in Dan Campbell who clearly is okay with leading with the running backs because that's what Ben Johnson did, made his money. I would be excited to have Drew Petzing in the building in Detroit because he's not going to put it all on Jared Goff. He is going to use those weapons. He's going to use Laporta, St. Brown, Gibbs, Montgomery to set Jared Goff up to look great again. I would be through the roof if I were a Lions fan.
You should be. And if I was Sam Laporta, I'd be smiling because I could see Trey McBride and I'm like, give me, put some of that and inject some of that in my veins. All right, Baker Mayfield versus the whole NFC South. I'll tell you what that's all about, and then we'll let Dave tell us what's going on with the Commanders and their coaching searches in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You know, man, it is officially playoff mode. We got the semifinals left in every game during the NFL playoffs. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a Profit Boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Open your Profit Boost pack first thing on game day and see what boost you want to apply. The boost lets you lean into your game day instincts. Whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching, the boost gives you more juice on the bet you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks, then you apply your Profit Boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your Profit Boost pack every NFL playoff game day. And today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. Whether when you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, you need to trust Indeed-sponsored jobs. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidate faster. I've done it. I've opened barbershops and I've opened other businesses. And if you don't get the right person, the first person isn't always the right one. You want to do it right or you'll be doing it all over again. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results. Use Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get $75 sponsored job credit to help your job help get your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. All right, let's get to it, man. Baker Mayfield made some comments. I don't have the actual quote from Baker Mayfield, but talking about Kevin Stefanski said something on social media and then proceeded to say, can't wait till we play him. He says he was thrown out like hot garbage, hot trash. He doesn't have good memories of him being in Carolina, and for some reason he doesn't like the New Orleans Saints either. Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback. If this is what he needs to motivate himself, fine, but it seems like to me they got a lot of other stuff to be tending to. Let me listen to my man Yarko from down at Locked On Bucs, though, talk about the Bucs and their offensive situation.
We talked about it a lot, but the offense seemed to get worse as the team got healthier. Evans returns, Godwin returns, McMillan returns, Bucky returns, and the offense became disjointed, predictable, and vanilla. This was a unit that finished in the top 5 in the NFL last year and was outside of the top 20 in 2025. 25th in yards per play, 26th in yards per rush, 27th in fourth down conversion rate, 23rd in red zone efficiency, 19th in goal to go efficiency, 21st in net yards per pass attempt. They had more weeks outside the top 20 in yards as they did inside the top 10. It just became a huge mess, and that's why Grizz was let go.
Dave, I'm a vibes guy. You know me, man. You know how it is. I think vibes can carry the day if you lead with it. Only problem is Baker Mayfield is a vibes quarterback, and it seems like his vibe is a little off right now. And when his vibe is off, the whole team, his body language and some of the things that he's using to motivate, it just doesn't seem like Baker is the same Baker this year.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Baker Mayfield thrives in chaos, man. Like, that's what Baker Mayfield needs. When the rest of us are uncomfortable, that's when Baker Mayfield snuggles in and gets nice and cozy, and that's the kind of thing that he wants. What's funny about this, honestly, and look, the Stefanski Baker Mayfield history, is known. Like, he Baker obviously wasn't happy with the way things ended up there in Cleveland, and Stefanski as one of the decision makers, and the head coach of the team at the time is obviously going to catch a lot of that stress and all that. That's no. The thing about this story though is Stefanski didn't say anything. Like, Stefanski didn't say anything.
Not a word.
There's one reporter in Atlanta who decided to go just over clickbait on a headline title and just cross the line between journalism and human respect, and called Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson the combined total of a dumpster fire. And that's what Baker Mayfield was responding to and said,
I would have responded
and then said, looking forward to seeing you twice a year, coach. Like, if you're Kevin Stefanski, you're going like,
I caught it straight.
I didn't say nothing. I didn't even say nothing. You know what I mean? But look, that's what happens. That's how it works. But Baker doesn't need anybody to create opportunities for him. I know there's some Falcons fans who are like, oh, gee, thanks. You just gave Baker Mayfield bulletin board material. And don't get me wrong. Look, I would not be surprised to see Baker Mayfield walk into the Mercedes-Benz Dome the first time the Bucs play the Falcons this year with a T-shirt that just has that flaming dumpster image that we always use on social media and everything, and just wear that into the game or out of the game if they beat them and do things like that. But Baker, I'll tell you right now, if you don't provide Baker the material, he's going to go find the material. Baker has always been a me against the world type of dude. It's what gets him going. It's what gets his juices flowing. We go back to MJ, making up the story of this opposing player, talking trash about him before a game so he can go out there and drop 100 on his head. Like, some dudes just need that kind of stuff, man, and Baker's one of them dudes.
He is one of those dudes. What's going on in Washington, man? Cliff Kingsbury's gone. He's interviewing for jobs. And what y'all going to do with the OC up there?
I'll tell you, that's who Cleveland needs to go call. You need to go call Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury might be about the only job, or about the only guy that's actually going to take your job. And he actually knows how to get a little bit of good, at least for 1 year, out of a young quarterback like Shedeur Sanders. So you might get 1 year out of it. I don't know what you're going to do in 2027, but you need to worry about 2026 before you need to worry about the rest of that stuff. As far as the Commanders are concerned, young offensive coordinator and David Blau is going to get his first opportunity as a play caller this year. And then the defense coordinator search. And truthfully, I think they're waiting on one of two people. I think they're waiting on either Brian Flores, of course, the Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator, who's had some head coaching interviews, second interview with the Pittsburgh Steelers to be their next head coach happened on Tuesday. So, whether he makes that decision or decides to return back to Minnesota or go to Washington, I think that they're waiting on that, or Carl Scott. So you either go with the proven, historically successful defensive coordinator in Brian Flores, who knows how to run his shop, knows how to do his thing, and Dan Quinn can basically just kind of set it and forget it type of thing. Not that DQ wouldn't be involved, but just saying you could be, set it, forget it with Brian Flores. And remember that Flores turned the Minnesota Vikings defense that was like 23rd, 24th in the league the year before he arrived to a top 5 defense the year he arrived in Minnesota. So a man who's capable of orchestrating quick turnarounds. Or you go Carl Scott, the Seattle Seahawks defensive backs coach and defensive pass game coordinator, who was given some play calling opportunities, granted in the preseason by Mike McDaniel, but he's at least worn the headset a little bit, run some game script a little bit, things like that. 15 years of coaching history, or 18 years of coaching history in Carl Scott, including Nick Saban. He's worked in an A-gap heavy scheme in Minnesota. He's worked in a cover 3 under Pete Carroll. Now he's worked in a super disguise system with Mike McDaniel. So the man might be a first-year D coordinator if he gets the job, but the man has a boatload, a library of experience that he's pulling for to do it. He would be the most interesting hire. Brian Flores obviously would be the safest, most exciting. Carl Scott would be the most intriguing hire. The question is Dan Quinn safe enough in his position to hire 2 first-year play callers as his new coordinators? We'll see what the decision is, but I feel like they're waiting on one of those 2 shoes to drop. Flores either deciding to take a head coaching job or return to Minnesota, or Carl Scott getting eliminated, because right now the Seattle Seahawks are trying to get to the Super Bowl.
No doubt about it. We will keep watching that. And you guys can keep watching too, especially if you're a member of the Everydayer Club. You'll get the same shows you get each and every day because it's still your team every day. But if you join the Everydayer Club of the show that you watch the most, click down in that subscription, man, and you'll get ad-free shows, audio versions of the show, as well as access to merch and more for as little as $5 a month. So check out the Everydayers Club for your favorite podcast. We're going to get to it, man, and go out here and try to find some other stuff that we need to be talking about. We always up in everybody's business here in the barbershop. We appreciate you and thank you for spending a little bit under 32 minutes with us today. Hopefully we didn't waste your time. We don't take it for granted. We'll see you next time here on Locked On NFL.